call this meeting of the Rockingham School Board to order. It's 5:34 p.m. I have Mr. Schumann lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Special guest.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adjustments to the agenda.
Okay, so I have an item to add, and then we need to maybe talk about resorting it a little bit. We have Edie just got word of a tuition overcharge, and that's statutorily one we have to put on and deal with now. So the item would be called allowable tuition overcharge refund, I guess. Does that sound right, Edie? And that can be under new business 9D, I guess. You got two items for executive session. One is a tuition request. Teacher's here to talk about that. And a real estate matter that I'd like to talk to you about. And I wonder if you want to move those items up and dispense with them early, or just leave them where they are. They're kind of in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the agenda, the way they are.
I'm happy to move them up unless Mr. Harris wants to sit through first hour.
Okay. So we can move them up under communications and public comments.
Okay.
And deal with both of those. I'm not expecting an action out of the real estate matter.
Okay.
It's informational.
I think it's probably all our adjustments for the day. Review and approve the board budget meetings from December 4th.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it is. I lost my page, sorry. Oh. Communications and public comments.
I don't have any for you.
Okay. Well, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss contractual and real estate matters which may give.
Their prior knowledge will.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's cold here.
That's a sore subject.
Okay. Well, we're back out of executive session. We discussed the real estate matter, which there was no action taken or to be taken at this time. And would someone like to offer a motion on the other topic?
I'll move that we approve the tuition request up to the amount of $750 as in the bargaining agreement.
Discussion?
The motion is to.
The motion is to approve it. That was me. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the tuition reimbursement request?
I'm gonna say aye on that.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay? 1, 2,
I'm gonna abstain, I wasn't here for it.
3 opposed, 1 abstention, and 1 for. Okay, thanks, Matt. You can stay if you want.
Be tons of fun.
So, policies. Excellent. Superintendent's report.
See if I can remember what's on that list over there.
Oh.
I went to the governor's education around, whatever he called it. I don't know what he called it.
Educational science.
Yeah, it had blossomed into over 300 people. And the way it was set up was there was sort of a presentation or a PowerPoint or a panel, and then you were assigned to a table, and then at the table you were supposed to discuss what excited you, what was a challenge, and something else. I forget what. And then you got to enter this conversation into this SurveyMonkey thing. So there were presentations on early education. There was a presentation on career and technical education development that was a little hard to follow because the guy seemed a little disorganized. There was several PowerPoints about the costs of education in Vermont. There were, I had to leave early, but I just listened to a presentation of superintendents extolling the virtues of consolidation. So I just felt like it wasn't a very
It doesn't sound
Useful.
as though it's interactive.
Yeah, I mean, I really had kind of pictured maybe there would be, kind of in-depth discussions, even if they did have to be at your table around certain topics or ideas about education funding. And instead it was more just reacting to these set pieces. So I have not much hope that anything was accomplished, except I drove through the snow to Norwich University. But there were people who loved it. I mean, to be fair, I'll say that, there were people that said, oh, we're so happy to be included in this conversation. But I don't know what. Maybe I'm just too jaded in my old age about this stuff. Anyway, that was that. We've gotten back to the integrated field review. That was the study that folks came and did in October here, visited all of our schools. Josh Soule came and he runs the project for the agency. He presented to the administrative team Thursday last. We got to ask questions about the parts of the draft that we didn't agree with, or we had questions, or I thought it was pretty decent
So what
back and forth.
did they come forward with, like suggestions and recommendations?
They did.
And-
So there's kind of, for each area, there's a group of statements, and then there were commendations, and then there were recommendations. And pretty simple. I mean, 1 page for each area. And overall, I think the district came off really well. I mean, it was a very positive report. So when we get the final draft, I'll give it to you. It was in a draft form the other day. And then there were parts we had questions about, or thought that they had somehow gotten something wrong. So that's that. And as you know, your Act 46 alternative structure document, I'm hoping to send it out this week. So tomorrow night, when Westminster meets. Athens, Grafton, and the high school have signed off on their part of the document, so we'll get to talk about that. So that's, my hope is that we get it there before the 26th, which was the deadline. And I think everything else is sort of in the agenda.
You have a note here, something DSS hiring?
So we're, the Director of Student Services hiring search committee is meeting tomorrow. We're actually interviewing someone. And the superintendent search committee is being formed this week, so Ed Bank is putting that group together, and I think might even still be a slot or two open if people are interested.
Do you know in which category?
Well, parent/community member. Yeah. That's
Okay, principals reports. Might as well start with Nancy, she's first in line.
Okay, I think I have a brief one-page report there where our kindergarten is growing to 21 students, so that's a busy and fun place to visit. The kids had the White Elephant Sale on Friday. It's always very popular, and it's amazing how much the art room has changed into a really very well-organized boutique. We had lots of elves come to help wrap, and so that was a great day. We've got student council pajama day and a snack sale tomorrow, and then looking forward on Thursday afternoon to a winter all-school sing-along led by Mrs. Dano.
What did you start the kindergarten year with, roughly?
I think we started with 20, but we've had move-outs, move-in, and this is someone coming back that moved out, and yeah.
And Keith, your kindergartens are similar.
20
Yeah.
each.
Any other questions for? We can move right along to Ms. Bukowski.
All right, again, fairly brief report. Basketball season is off and running, and the snow sports program will start on Sunday, the second Sunday of January, right? The 7th, yeah. Last Wednesday evening, we had our winter holiday concert with both the new chorus and the advanced band playing, and at the end they did a joint effort, which I thought was really kind of neat to see and hear, and very timely of Grant Us Peace. Outside of that, after I post this, let you know that back in October, our ELA teachers submitted several student essays to the Young Writers Spine Chillers contest, and they had to be 25-word short stories, so short stories. And out of 4,500 submissions, we had 5 students that were chosen to be published in that. And we'll get a copy of the book for our library. They are the students that have been contacted. Their parents have to, sign off, etc. So bring a copy of that when we get it. And it was a combination of 7th and 8th graders. So that was nice. And the assistant principal position has been posted on School Spring, and I have it running through January 19th, and currently have 5 applicants.
Wow. That's quick.
Any questions there? Skipping on to Keith.
Sure. Enrollment does what it always does. It's a revolving door. 1 in, 2 out, back and forth. I track my progress results, comparing fall to the winter results. The one number that will probably get your attention is that 37% in math. We took a good look at that, and there's 5 students who just missed the cutoff, so I'm not too worried about that at this point. but we'll be looking at that in greater depth. Thanksgiving was real busy for us. First and second grade had meals of Thanksgiving. Second grade was in their classroom. First grade does an evening presentation for families. Cross grade day was a big success. This was the day right before the Thanksgiving break. And it was all focused around the book that everybody read. And then we ended that afternoon down at the movie theater, or down at the Opera House, to watch the movie version of the book, which was a lot of fun. Apparently our fourth graders are pulling potatoes out of the ground. I can't believe we had 50 pounds of potatoes in our ground somewhere, but thanks to Wendy Hardy, who's kept up with gardening and keeping our kids engaged in gardening. So that was a nice little haul. And Mrs. Kane's fourth graders recently connected with another fourth grade class somewhere in the state, and they do this live through Google Hangouts, and they share clues about where they are, and you try to guess where the other school is. And the Central kids were able to guess their location off of, they guessed their county off of one clue that was given off their first clue. And anyway, I think they're eager to connect with other schools, so I'm trying to reach out to principals around the state to see if we can connect them around. So a lot of fun. So good way to study geography.
I thought you were going to say they connected to like actually be pen pals. But I guess nobody does that anymore.
So, and we do have a job posted. We're looking for a long-term sub in the spring for third grade. We have a teacher going out, so if you know of anyone who might be of interest and qualified, let them know. Great.
Questions for Pete? No?
Thank you all.
Edie?
Yeah, everything is running smoothly, nothing concerning. Our health insurance expenditures are still encumbered through December. But we just got our first January bill today from Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're a little behind. This transition has been huge for them and for us, for Rhonda. And the only thing is that I wanted to make you aware of is there's still $55,572 in the Cherry Street reserve, and so we need to think about maybe taking that back to the voters, because it won't be used on. I think you're done, aren't you, Rick? As far as that property goes?
As far as that property goes, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the remainder? I'm sorry, I missed that number.
55,572.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, as long as everything's done, then it will just sit there unless, you know, the voters approve to use it somewhere else. So. But that's it.
Anyone want to grill Edie on anything?
Yeah, any questions?
Thank you for the updates.
WNESU board. I think Chris covered most of that
I
already.
think I kind of did. There's no SU board meeting until the end of January.
I'm assuming the budget passed.
Oh, yes, the budget passed. We should talk about that. So the SU budget passed. District-wide food services in that budget. As is the assistant superintendent, as is a little bump up for the English language learning teacher. Those are the assessments are now in your budget that Edie has given you for tonight. And they're sort of up and down. I think yours might have been down a little more than they were up. But pretty level. The
So
SE
even with the food service, our assessment is down from,
well,
Yes.
Yeah, your enrollment's down a little.
you know,
And then we had that large contingency in the SU last year. Because the
contract.
CBAs hadn't been settled, so that's a huge drop right there.
The other, most of the increase in the SU it's a special ed increase. As we knew our discussion. I don't know, Evan, if you you were involved, and maybe, did I forget anything?
Rockingham enrollment down, Westminster enrollment up, special ed education is the cost driver.
And food
Shot in the
service.
dark on the food service program. We'll see how that rolls out.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I think we actually reduced the head count, I think, by 1 FTE.
I know one of the things we chatted about a little bit was that most of the things that are driving up costs at WNSU are things that are out of our, they're things that we don't really, the things that we have control over, we did very well at managing. The things that we didn't have control over, the things that are driving the increases. Any questions for that's one committee meets? I don't think we have any committee reports.
Nope.
Review, approve the Central Elementary School Continuous Improvement Plan.
So this is the document earlier in the fall. You had seen Nancy's and Karen's SIP plan. I recently met with Missy Wilkins, and we had a video conference with the state team that oversees this. And this version is a little different than what they came back to us with, but it's sort of a working document. So it's,
We've got mixed messages from the
very
state
mixed.
about
That's very
what
well
should
said.
be in these plans.
well, wasn't yours the one they were sort of
They were-
changing how
They were going to
wanted
use as a model and doctor it up, and what we got back is like very different than what they had told us was what we should be shooting for. So I'm not too sure they fully understand the process. Like, they have the process. I don't think they fully understand or appreciate sort of the time frame that we have in order to produce what we need to produce in order to make a document that then can drive everything else that comes from it. It's a rather tight time frame.
And plus, this is part of your alternative structure report that's going to the state, which is,
Yeah.
we wanted to get a draft done for all the schools that were approved.
But this is just for Central, right?
This one's for Central, yeah,
Mhm.
you've approved the other two already. We'll get to go back and do these some more.
Well, I'll make a motion to report.
I just had the one question of like, and that's why I asked that, was because in each thing it says the Rockingham schools as opposed to Central, so I didn't know if that was
That goes back. I'm
intentional.
sorry.
Yeah, go
or-
ahead.
No, that goes back to, that was a guiding thing on Nancy and mine too, because we met as principals and came up with 4 goals, and then from those goals, we personalized up below them 4 individual
Okay,
schools.
yeah.
So if you go back and look at mine, you'll see the same 4
Same
goals.
statement.
You'll see the
thing.
same
Okay.
4 goals for Nancy's as well.
Thank you for the clarification on that. Margot, were you gonna make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the continuous improvement plan for Central Elementary School for the 2017-18.
Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like the ayes have it. Review and approve Act 46 alternative structure documents. See alternative structures link on WNASU website.
So, I've got yet another final draft of this.
So I'm curious what sort of happened as it went around
Right.
to all the districts?
Good question, and that's where I should start. So after you folks made edits or suggested edits at your last meeting, which was at Central, Westminster met the night after and picked basically exactly every single item you did and said, yeah, fix it, and agreed with you on that. So at that point, I rewrote the overview document, which is, and that hasn't changed. That's, I do have hard copies for folks if they want to peruse them, but, so this really hasn't changed. And I gave it a title and I fixed some wording in it and all that kind of thing. The actions document, I've tweaked a couple of times. So the most recent tweaking is very minor, but I'll show you what I did.
Well, you've already got sign off, you said, from the high school and
High school, Grafton, Athens, so you and Westminster are next.
Well,
So,
but based on that, shouldn't you be hands off on it?
But that's for their board.
Ah, okay.
And you'll notice that I craftily changed the wording on the sign off.
Same thing.
Make sure Samantha gets a copy of that.
So by the time Grafton and Athens and the high school board saw everything, they had been updated
They did.
because we had, Westminster and we had already met.
Right. I thought after you and Westminster had both,
Had the
you know,
same
basically, essentially agreed on all the changes, I said, I might as well rewrite this because everybody's going to do the same thing. The high school started to kind of wordsmith this document, and I got a little irritated with them and told them to stop doing that. This is a document for the state to read. It's not necessary for us to be pleased with in every single aspect of it. It is supposed to be a persuasive argument for the folks at the state. So if you look at the sign off that I did
That's what the Rockingham
for
board needs.
Rocky, right? You've reviewed the section 9 proposal. You haven't approved it. You've reviewed it. But what you're agreeing to are the actions on this list. So, and I think the only things I've tweaked a little bit here were the list of areas under the first bullet. Wayne Gerson had some wording in there where it said particularly certain areas, and he kind of made them up. And I said, may emerge, for example, in the areas of, and a couple of these other things have been talked about with other boards, guidance services, maintenance as a district, that kind of thing. So it's not really committing you to anything, it's just saying,
We'll continue
You'll
to
look at
explore.
Other pieces, I think you looked at the last time, you looked at the checklist for meetings. That hasn't changed.
So just a quick
Yeah.
question about the staff development. There's still going to be some opportunities for each school to have some
Right.
staff development.
Notice what I did with the wording there, yes. Funded primarily through the SU.
Because I'm missing the word primarily.
Third bullet down. There's only one sentence. Assessment grade
Oh, primarily,
report.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I hadn't read far enough.
That was some Wayne's wording there that. But we want
Right.
to be able to do some on-the-spot professional development now and then. We don't want everybody doing something different, but that was 12 years ago. This is now. And the goals checklist is really an optional kind of menu for you to work off of. So if you're good with this, you need a motion to authorize the chair to sign it.
I'll make a motion that the Rockingham School Board authorize the board chair to sign the Rockingham Town School Board actions to strengthen the existing governance structure of WNESU document.
Any discussion? Questions? Answers? All in favor?
Aye.
So you're authorizing me to or directing me to?
Just sign it.
I needed water. Should have better.
What's today, the 18th?
Yeah,
You put in the date of board approval?
I will.
That's a nice pen.
Somebody lent it to me and I stole it.
Well, you may have almost lost it again.
It's not that nice of a pen. So unless you have anything, now that that's signed, I think we can move on to budget discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I have your budget maybe.
what's up? Oh. We've gotten some of the information back from the state. We've got the equalized pupil count back, and we were surprised to find that actually went up. We had been predicting it would go down a little bit. So that's good news. More good news for you. The reason we think it went up is those are weighted students, so poverty students count more. So it may be that there's a shift there. English language learners count more. So I'm not sure why without.
Yeah, that's beneficial because then it lowers our spending per equalized student and puts us under the penalty thresholds.
Well,
Well,
you're going to be well under the penalty threshold. So what Edie has done in this current printout you've got is
Is it the same as this electronic one you sent the other day?
Yes.
Right.
No changes have been made since?
Um,
Whatever day that was.
no, not the, no.
So,
And we'll send the expenditures one way and the revenues another.
Total 15, 250.
I know, where this one says 238, so I'm gonna take another one. There's obviously a change.
Or it just took that long to get through the printer?
Starting to get warm.
No, I did the revenue second.
So, I had a question on the revenues budget.
Yeah?
I noticed, and I think you had alluded to this last time, that there was, a fiscal year 17 surplus,
Yes.
and we need to decide what to do
Right.
with it.
Yep.
we've loaded the whole thing in there right now. You're not gonna wanna do this.
No.
We wanted you to see what you've got, and then you can kind of back this off. So, the first line of the revenue budget, Edie put the whole surplus that you've got, $575,853 into that line. You won't want to do that, obviously. Notice that, as we said, in the current year, you've got $139,000 applied surplus. Notice what that did to education spending. So look down at line 11, again in the revenue budget. So that, if you put your whole surplus in there, it would actually drop education spending by $413,000. Of course, then the next year, if you had a deficit, you just have this wild tax swing that everybody would go crazy about. Plus, you've got some things that need to be paid for. The other thing that Rick and Edie did was you put all the possible capital costs in, right?
Yes, they're all in there.
For all
Yeah.
three schools.
Yeah. Well, Central was already in there, so.
Okay,
but
right.
I added them for the other three.
So now we're talking about the expenditure budget. So, so there are capital costs in the expenditure budget. If you, with that loaded up like that, the total bottom line of the Rockingham budget is up $176,742, or about 2%. The Fund 100s, which are the part of the budget, the general fund is up to $10.62, or another. It's also 2%. So we're presuming that you want to cover some of these capital costs by establishing reserve funds, thus removing them from your expenditure budget, but also at the same time cutting down the amount that you're applying as a surplus, because you don't want to apply that much. So, but what you got here is kind of the whole business to look at, and you can back it off from here. What we don't have for you is really, what's the tax effect gonna be, unfortunately. I mean, we may get all that stuff this week.
Yeah.
We may be able to send it out to you.
Mhm.
Are there any other numbers that we're waiting on at this point in the?
CLA.
which is what?
common level of assessment. So, and that's the number we need for the tax sheet to finish that off.
Remind me what ELL is again?
English language learners. So that's the position that got
ESL.
bumped up. Yes, used to be ESL. That's what, there's an increase.
They
I know.
just keep changing it.
Right.
And
Every time I
then,
figure out where it's at, somebody moves it.
and then I was noticing, so what used to be under the nutrition program. So basically,
What page you looking at, Margaret?
page 39. So that's all food service related.
Yep.
That's now going into the district, which is why these numbers look the way they do, right?
Yes.
So where does, like, when it goes into the district budget, and then we get the assessment for our portion of it, does it get broken down into the budget, or is it
Yeah,
like one?
it's in here.
That'd be the total 3,100, right? The 50,000.
Yep, that sounds right.
That's our assessment.
Where are you?
Top of page 40.
40.
What line number?
572. Totals below 572.
Yeah, that's,
No, that's not it.
that's not it.
And that's
Should be
basically,
towards the beginning of your budget. And
basically all this is
page
showing
number.
is like, we're zeroing out all of
It's
those.
line 81 on page 10.
Go figure.
Oh, wait, no,
No, that's
that
the
isn't it either.
No.
I saw transfer, but it isn't transfer, it's special ed. Now, where in the heck did it go? I'm so used to looking at it in piece. Oh, here it is, line 68, I'm sorry. I knew it was in the beginning because it's not assigned to any one school.
Okay. So basically, when we get the WNESU assessment, it is still broken out by category, just not necessarily in the same place
Yep.
it used to be.
Yep. Yep, and the assessments are, you can go back to the SU adjustment budget and see those chunks of the SU.
Right.
They'll be labeled the same in your budget.
Okay.
Of course, half the label gets cut off, but that's another. So Edie, the other piece I guess they need to keep in mind is what's in the capital fund right now?
Okay, that is broken down by school and it's under the building and grounds in each of the
No,
schools.
no, I mean, that's not what I have. The established reserve funds.
Oh.
What's in that right now?
Is that what we put into it last year?
That should be in the
Right.
balance
It
sheet.
should be in your balance sheet. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of moving pieces here, which,
Okay, they still have a little bit in tech reserve.
well, the capital fund, that's what I,
And then there's $148,085 in the capital improvements reserve.
and then you said there was 55 something.
57201 in the Cherry Hill reserve.
57201,
5557201.
55,000,
Yeah,
721.
572.
yeah.
then we've got that surplus of 575, 853.
Yeah.
But some of that you probably want to leave, I think, as an
So
applied surplus.
what was the number you said that Rick had for capital expenditures?
Right, now back to that. Well, we've got some, just to keep the whole thing global, we've got some stuff we're going to talk about tonight out of the capital reserve
Yep.
No, so we don't.
for a total of
The capital reserve, that was,
the elevator and
the elevator, which was 12 grand in that neighborhood, and the sprinkler repair was 7 grand, I think. Let me see.
So for the 19 budget, somebody threw out a number earlier that I missed. It was kind of what.
I can't get to it.
right.
It
Well,
won't let me.
I'm not sure a number was actually thrown out.
Yeah, I
It
didn't
was
think
said
I
it was
remember
split up
hearing a
among the
number
3 schools.
that included
Sorry,
it all,
yeah. That's why I missed it.
Right.
It wasn't actually thrown out.
I think it was just mentioned that it's all included.
Yeah, so all the capital expenditures, right, are already built into this budget.
right.
Yes. And $12,983 for the elevator repair, and $7,525 for the sprinkler system repair.
How much for the sprinkler?
$7,525.
So if you agree to those tonight, that means you're going to take 20,508 out of the established capital reserve fund. Which would leave you 127,577 in the established capital reserve. Then we get to what's in the budget, so.
Yeah, the first line is 271 on page 20.
You know, there's one other piece, is the windows. And that's
And
the middle school windows.
1618 Cherry Street would pretty much cover that, but we'd have to get voter.
We talked about that, but the windows are another expense that we.
Right,
And that was how much?
about 50,000, it was 49 something, but I
So-
call it 50.
50,000 in windows.
I can get you the exact amount.
Well, that's okay.
I mean, that we paid for this year, that,
It should have been paid by June 30th, but we couldn't get a vendor to do it, so
so it
it's
ended up
part
being
of your
this-
surplus that it just, there was money in last year's budget to pay for it,
Oh, and we never did the project.
but we couldn't do it until July,
Oh.
therefore, in that surplus money is the money
Oh.
that had been allocated for the windows. So
Yeah.
it did come out of this year's budget, however, there was nothing in this year's budget
So one way or another,
to
you're
pay
gonna
for.
wanna, I would think, take that out of a capital reserve fund or
Yes.
establish a
Yeah.
capital reserve fund. And you can do it either way. You could am I right, Edie? They could just move money out of the capital reserve
They can do
As an
that,
accounting practice, they would just
Yeah.
have to make the motion to do that.
correct.
So you've got, now we're up to 70,508 between the windows, the sprinklers, and the elevator.
So have we not actually paid for the windows to be done yet?
No, we did,
We
but
did.
it was supposed
just
to be
needs to be
last
moved
fiscal
around within
year.
the-
It ended up being this fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's expensed against this year's regular expenses. We would, if you agree to pay it out of reserve fund instead, we would simply
Got it, understood.
move the entry out of there.
Oh, should we just, while we're talking about it, just make that motion?
Well, we've got an agenda item for last year in a minute essentially.
That's for that item.
Well, not that particular item, but
You don't know
elevator,
for that one.
sprinkler.
Yeah, you may want to bring that back with another meeting.
Okay,
There's no rush, as long as you know what you're going to do with it.
so we should plan for voting on the windows at the next meeting.
Let's put that in the notes, so
Okay.
that we don't forget.
Yeah, well, it's complicated, so many items and there's several pools of money.
Josh got that. We can depend on Josh.
So an agenda item for next meeting about using capital reserve funds for the windows at the middle school.
Yep,
Yes. Thank you.
okay.
The same as it's pretty much the same here. Discuss authorized expenditure of capital reserve funds for windows at middle school.
So Rick, what you've got here, 271, 272. Is it? Looks like you're figuring on grant money paying half of this.
Yes,
Plus
half
yes,
of the
and that figure, I
178,000.
believe, is incorrect. That figure should be,
Which figure?
that,
The 170?
the 92, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be 105, and that is with the 75% or 75 cost reimbursement from Wyndham Regional and the 50% cost reimbursement. It's actually 105. The 92 is not.
Well, so the pellet boiler replacement is supposed to be 105, plus we have the replumbing and.
Oh, that's supposed to be 105?
that's what he just said.
Well, no,
Okay.
that's total. That's
It's the total of the
the
replumbing,
replumbing and controls,
and
yes.
pellet boiler.
Risk, yes, because that's with the 75% cost reimbursement for that. And then that's what Wyndham Regional offers.
Okay, I need to fix that.
75% cost reimbursement for the replumbing and the controls for the hot water system. And they also offer a 50% cost reimbursement, which is a separate cost for the estimate we got for 170,900, essentially 171,000 replacement of the pellet boilers. So, yeah, so separate that replacement, what does that come to? 85,000 for the pellet boilers alone, and a 50% cost reimbursement.
And what happens to the old one? Do we sell that, or?
That is something I've talked with a contractor about, and not sure if we can contact the manufacturer to see if they would come and take it out of the building. That's one option. That was put down in that boiler room in pieces, obviously, and there was a much bigger access door for it at the time during construction. It's since been closed up, so.
So is the 27 correct?
27,000, that's prior to a 75% cost reimbursement.
Prior to, so 75%.
Off of that, right, so you would take 75% off of that, and then you would take 50% off the
So
170.
that's about $8,000,
6750.
6750. Is that, do you think that's, we've done too many controls. Do you think that's enough?
Do I think that's enough?
Yeah, I mean, that was a package quote, right?
The two separate costs, one is through the plumbers and the other
Right,
is through.
but they were looking
control.
at replacing the whole boiler system and everything.
Right, and that's 92,218.
The
What is the
27.
105 number?
The 27,000, that's a replumbing of the hot water system.
That's assuming the boilers are being replaced.
No, that's,
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
right, yep.
So do you have a plumbing, does the replace pellet boiler cost include controls and plumbing?
That cost, it does not include controls, I know that, but that should not, the controls that are in place should be, they are in place, that should not really be a big.
Or should we put a little bit more in the budget?
I don't trust controls.
I'm starting to wonder, will we see a return on our investment of all this pellet boiler stuff, or?
Well, right now, your pellet system is completely dysfunctional in that school. The large pellet boiler, as we told you last time, is not really even operable in that building.
So we're running off oil there.
We are running off oil because it seems like every time we get the pellet boiler up and running, it's not really cost effective right now because something else happens.
So I guess then part of my question is, if we are spending 105,000 or whatever the number is to upgrade the pellet boiler and controls and such, are we?
Going to eventually see a savings.
Yeah.
Like see a benefit of that.
We don't know the answer.
We
to
don't, because with the oil pricing the way it is now, we've hit a good time to have a problem such as this.
Mhm.
Well, we're saving money by having a problem.
Yeah.
But versus jump back up.
Mhm.
What is the 105,000 figure? Because I take the 27,000 and discount it, and I take the 170,000 and discount it, and I get the 92,218.
So then that is
Edie's
what
got
it is.
here.
You're right, and it is,
Okay.
yep.
I just didn't want 13,000
Nope.
floating around.
Right.
Should we build a little bit more in for the controls and?
And that was the original figure I came out with, and then
So, well, and, right, let's save that question aside for a second, because that was a good one. Can I go back to the 27,000?
yes.
What is that buy?
That buys you plumbing, repiping of the hot water system to get it to run more efficiently. Right now, it does not run efficiently. The oil burn is short cycles constantly, and it's not running properly. It'll get you a much more
Okay,
efficient
so even with
system.
no matter what we do
Right.
with
Should
boilers,
get that done.
We
That
need
was
that
proposed-
done.
Right, when we had the engineers, the secondary engineers,
okay,
Wilson Engineering come in, that's what they proposed to have done to the system. Regardless, whether you replace the wood pellet boilers or not, or you just keep them trying to run along with the oil
Right.
burner. Yep.
right, okay, it's all coming down.
So is there any deadlines with the Wyndham Regional Commission's cost?
That I do not know. I can contact them and
Like
find
it's
that.
not by
I
the
don't-
end of 2017,
know.
is it?
Yeah.
November.
Well, all right, so this goes back to the issue you and I went back and forth a million times on. So the replumbing, repiping
Right.
is a priority item
Yes.
that, again, you could consider doing it out of existing capital funds.
But would we be able to do it this year?
Well, you've got,
I mean, time-wise, not money.
Well, yeah, you'd have to wait till after the heating system. It's gonna be tough. I mean, you'd have to get somebody in there.
you
It
can do
should
it
be
during the
summer
summer.
months.
It doesn't.
During the summer,
It doesn't
yeah.
matter when you do it because it's coming out of capital reserves. You just have
Okay.
to authorize spending.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be within one fiscal year or the other.
okay.
So do we get the 50% off the 27,000 even if, or is that only if you're doing a boiler replacement all at the same
No.
time?
No, so what it is any work like what we're doing there, replumbing and adding controls to an existing system, that's what they offer 75% off on. For a replacement, which is separate, like what Chris is trying to get to, like that's a separate thing. If we want to decide to replace the pellet boilers, they offer a 50% cost reimbursement. So you're talking two different,
Okay, so it's 75% off the
Yes.
27,000.
correct,
Okay.
yep.
So then we sort of circle back to your two questions, which were, do we want to replace the boiler or not? And if we do we add some more, kind of figure some more in there because, I'm not sure
I'm
how
looking-
comprehensive that
Right, I'm
That's
looking for that now.
estimate
And,
was for replacing the pellet boilers.
I would be in favor of replacing the pellets, it's just the boiler.
Yeah. Another, I guess, argument in favor of doing it is while the Wyndham Regional Commission, which I think this is the Vermont Yankee Wood Heat Grant money, right,
Right.
that they're administering.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well, we have the incentive,
right,
which is a big amount.
because
It is.
if
Yeah.
it goes away, then
Prices are
you'll
gonna
be
be
socked with the
3
whole
years.
bill.
So I would encourage you to make sure to take a look at what their deadlines are, just to
Right.
make sure we're not.
Absolutely.
Missing.
Yep.
But to play devil's advocate, how much does oil need to go back up before it really starts to?
Well, if the pellet system's not working,
It's useless
yeah,
Yeah, but
Like how much do you have, how many,
when your
How many
transmission
years?
starts to go in your car, do you make the decision, do I
Oh.
just get a different car or do I replace my transmission? I mean, we're talking about dumping, $100,000 into something that doesn't
right,
work. And
right.
what assurance do we have that it will actually work this time?
I see,
Well,
right.
is there some kind of warranty? I mean, if we're having a whole replacement system, there should be, it just
Unfortunately, I
baffles
think
me that
warranty
this
is come and gone on this current.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm
new
saying with the
system.
new system, with the new
There's a
system where.
2 years.
So the warranty on this, and I think this is part of the problem with the current system, and the other Rick can correct me if I'm wrong. The boiler performed as the boiler was supposed to, but it didn't perform for the way the building was engineered.
But now we have an engineer that came in and said, this is the proper boiler that you should have for this
And
building
we had
in
an
this
engineer the
space.
first time, you said.
Well, yeah.
hopefully this is a different engineer.
Right, so, yeah, we would have to get an engineer involved in replacing this. I mean, I'd have to have them look at this, but,
There's another cost.
well, if there's an engineer involved, then I can just ask them, Wilson Engineering. I doubt there'll be any cost for that. So, this was just a proposal from the Sandry company who's been servicing our boilers, who installed them. They did not recommend the ACT boilers, which we currently have, which do not have a good standing in the pellet community.
How
per
did
se.
we end up with them if they did not recommend them?
They recommended them,
Oh, they recommended
Yeah.
them originally?
yeah.
And we had an engineer before tell us that they were the proper,
Well, they designed the system. The previous engineers, when we renovated the middle school, designed this system.
Right.
to Spec these boilers.
Spec these boilers, right, correct.
And by the time we figured out, and again, feel free to stop me, but I've
You're in.
been listening to this for a while. By the time we got all the bugs worked out and figured out that the boilers were not spec'd appropriately, or not the appropriate boilers for what we were trying to do with them, all warranties and everything had expired, and we had, there was no recourse left at that time to say, because part of their issues on their end was still, the boiler performs as it's supposed to. It's just not the right boiler for the system that you guys have.
Right, that's the manufacturer's position. When did the engineers get taken behind the woodshed? It seems like there was a mistake
That's what I
made
was
there.
That's still yet another discussion,
All
I
right.
guess. I mean, I don't know what recourse we have at this point to go back to the engineering firm and say, you did this wrong.
Because it was a long trail of going to this one, trying this, doing this, getting upgrades to the software, which was in check. They just don't have a good track record, these ACT boilers. The Okefin boilers, which are being, which I have the estimate for, are tried and proven good pellet boilers in the,
So are we talking about replacing, because we have the large boiler and the small boiler. Are we looking at replacing both of those with one boiler at this point, or?
yes, yeah, we're basically looking at replacing the ACTs with Okefins.
Okay. So it's not because at one point my understanding was one boiler was oversized.
It is the large million BTU.
Right.
Yeah.
Was oversized, and so we're not just replacing that one, we're talking about just pulling both of those ACT.
Well, that's what I
boilers
went to Chris and mentioned, that we'd probably be better off just doing that at this point, because even getting the little one to perform properly over
Right.
any stretch of time is not very cost effective.
so just to be a little, I guess maybe I'm out of the loop a little, but when you came up with the figures for this, do we have a definitive, like, this is what we're told we need for a system, therefore this is what we got prices for?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
yep.
So we've had the engineer involved thus far to say this would be the proper system to take away these two boilers, two big, one big, one little, and we're gonna have one system put in, and this is what we got prices for?
Well, like I just said, I will definitely get the engineer's opinion on that, but everybody else who I've spoken to who's come and worked on our systems said that this is what you need.
I feel like with the history of this, we need to have some kind of engineer certification, like an actual something in writing.
Yep.
Someone we
With,
can
to go
sue
back to and say, you know,
Well, and the engineering firm you've had looking at this is not the original one.
No.
It's an independent engineering firm that's been working with us to try to.
did we get
Solve
that
this.
kind of stuff the first time, like an engineer certification or anything like that, completion, saying that they recommended that?
I'd have to look back at the.
I mean, I deal in real estate post-closing stuff
Well-
all the time with.
It was a separate part of the bid contract. Did not involve Trumbull Nelson. So we went out to bid separately for the.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Remember?
But even
So-
still, though.
But it was based on what the engineers for the
Right.
project said the
What they
building
spec
needed.
yeah.
I'm not sure who spec'd out the actual boilers. That's
I don't know.
a question I can't answer. I'd have to.
Because we're talking about spending another $100,000 on something that.
Well, and so I'll go back and be Rick's devil's advocate again. I mean, this is a pretty valid point. I mean, yes, it's a shame to have 2 boilers down there that aren't doing anything, but what's the lifespan of a pellet boiler? Do we know? We know the old ones went for 20, 30 years.
Right.
Like big locomotives. Didn't they?
Right. Well, I don't know
Yeah.
the answer to that, to be honest with you. I mean, the pellet systems are all it's relatively a new thing still, considering.
So, if, and the savings is not, it's not like wood chips. I mean, the savings are modest with a pellet boiler.
It also
depending-
depends on where oil prices are.
Right.
Yep, it does.
We did, a house scale is so different than a school scale, but I know when we did our calculations, we had, when we were looking at the system years ago, it was blown away in the first couple of years because oil prices skyrocketed so high. We were like, oh, we just paid it off right there in the first 2 years.
Right.
But, if they had remained low, we would have
Right.
taken more years.
Well,
So
yeah,
you just
and-
don't know what
No,
oil
it's
prices will
volatile.
do.
Yeah, market.
And the middle school now currently uses what for oil? About, seems like 20,000 gallons sticks in my head, but that was under the old system, I think.
Under the old system, we had actually gotten it down to the mid-teens.
Mid-teens, maybe the oil bill was closer to 20,000.
Right, yeah. I think we had maybe 13.
So,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was on the table and
well, I think it's a good question.
Yep.
That's
At some point-
$86,000 is a lot of money, or $100,000 by the time you get done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of, you've got to rack up a lot of savings.
Do we, does the school district get a discount on fuel?
Yeah, we
That's
go
what
out to
it
bid,
does.
so, yeah.
there's all the question, all the questions.
There's so many
like what's
different
gonna happen with
factors.
pellet prices? We don't
Right.
know, we don't know that either, when you figure in transportation, when fuel costs rise, transportation costs rise, everything, and where is that balance? It's very difficult to project. We could say, yeah, it's worth it, and even if oil goes up to $4 a gallon, we'll pay it back in 2 years, but then
The cost of pellets go up too?
pellets go up, then we don't, so it's a gamble. I think it's an alternative energy source. If we want to, be,
There's the green argument.
there's the green argument.
Right.
I've always-
footprint.
Personally, I've always questioned the pellets when it comes to green anyways, when I see the piles of plastic bags outside people's house and the
Yeah.
trucks delivering them.
People could reuse them too.
Well, it seems the really important fact here is to find out what deadlines, if any, exist with the Wyndham Regional for this 50% replacement refund. The controls we need to do whether we're burning pellets or oil.
Right.
So we need to think about getting that done this summer.
Yes.
In terms of replacing the boiler, the pellet boiler, if the Wyndham Regional program is good until 2020, we're not really under the gun for that.
So I would like to suggest that we add, for next time's agenda, allocating some funds to the repiping and controls for the hot water system. I'm in favor of us budgeting some money for the pellet boiler, but I would like to
Maybe look at more information.
I would like to ask the business office to do a little research and comparison and give us some idea, to the best of their knowledge, if they could forecast out a little bit what it might look like if we just walked away from it.
Now that we've fixed the hopper.
Now that we've fixed the hopper. Well, I mean, and you know, and to be honest, that's
It's
part,
already turned off.
to be honest, that's part of my frustration with the whole, with,
Right,
you know,
the
I've been
system
watching
just
this
kept
pellet system and it's just
not,
keep,
like,
you know,
working.
putting money in it and putting money into it and putting money into it.
It's not
And
worked right since the beginning.
it, you know, at some point, you have to just say, I'm not putting any more money into this.
Right. Well, we bid for the middle school, 10,000 gallons.
Last year.
No, that's the tank size. No, this year we bid 5,000 gallons. And we got a price of $1.76.
So you're anticipating
A
only
gallon.
using 5,000 gallons?
Well, no, we were anticipating using the pellet system partly, right?
Right, I think so, right, Rick?
Okay.
Does
I'm
that
sorry.
include the 5,000 we went out to bid for the middle school?
Okay.
That assumed some usage of the pellet
That
system.
assumed, yes. So we're gonna wind up doing what we've done the last couple of years.
Is we're gonna spend,
Paying
We'll
Spot to
spend
go over that.
pellet money on
I was gonna say,
oil.
did we budget for pellet
Yeah.
money though, that
Yeah.
just
So
be used
I'd
for
like to
fuel?
reiterate what Rick said, and, you know, if we could get some information for next time, let's double check the Wyndham Regional deadlines, make sure that it all works with what we're hoping for. And
Yes, Marion, yep.
And just some, yeah, they don't, it doesn't have to be too precise of forecast numbers, but just some sort of idea of like, you know, in the last 5 years pellets have increased so much, and if oil goes up to this, then our break-even point is when and where. A simple 3-part graph with some glossy photos.
Little PowerPoint
Little
to
PowerPoint.
us, accompany it.
color and full.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're gonna have to go some to save $86,000. Geez, with oil at $1.75 and.
Well, right, with the oil $1.75 right now, but oil, it wasn't that long ago, it was pushing $4, so.
Right.
So with the assumption that that's a good possibility for that to happen again.
It's a volatile market,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of my question, is like, okay,
What's
it's $1.75, so this is what it looks like now. If oil goes up to here, you know, if oil does hit that $3.50 or $4 a gallon mark, is it a 2-year ROI instead of a 10-year ROI now? That's,
okay.
The other thing we need to know is how much, if we just heat with oil, how many gallons are we using?
Right.
yeah.
It's not the 10.
Well, did we do that last year? Did last year we only use?
Oh, we did use some pellets, yep.
Yeah, it's here.
And we don't need to figure all that out tonight.
On line
We can-
278 and 279, you
Got
can
them
see
here.
what you
Yeah.
spent. Last year, we spent 25,000 in heating fuel and another 6,500 in pellets.
So we're still spending a majority on our oil, so.
Well, that's
Yeah.
because the pellet system wasn't
This
working.
year, we have encumbered the 8,800 for
So how valuable is that
fuel,
space
but
to you?
if the pellets aren't working, then,
So we spent 31 something to
yeah,
heat.
yeah.
That was more than that was supposed to cost to heat.
Yeah.
In fact, well, but we know why that is.
Yeah.
The heating cost went up because there was no ventilation or air handling exchange in the building, so it was very efficient when it was, before it was renovated to heat. Because no air went in. And
We
so-
suffocated
Right,
everyone.
so now that there's air exchange the way they're supposed to be, it is more expensive to heat.
So did you get my wanting to have in the budget or the agenda for the next meeting?
That one was for
The plumbing
repairing and
controls.
upgrading the heating system controls.
Yep.
So, the last 2 years with minimal pellet usage, we've averaged about 9,000 gallons, but obviously it would be a little more than that.
So 10,000 gallons.
We have a
is safe.
10,000 gallon tank, right, yeah.
safe amount to estimate?
Yeah, 10 to 12, yeah.
10 to 12?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I mean, because we were burning pallets for them.
Okay.
So if you had said 12, that should.
I'm stunned that Coda didn't shut me off because they were delivering to my house and they delivered like 9 gallons. 10 gallons.
You should have gotten some nasty letters.
Because we burn wood
There you go, okay.
mostly. I was like, and we're on auto delivery, and I finally called them and said, "Why do you guys keep this? It's what we do. We can deliver oil like there's no tomorrow."
You would think they might call and say, how much do you
They must be in the neighborhood,
Right.
otherwise they,
The house is easy to get to.
yeah,
And my oil fills.
since we got help getting,
If you lived at the top of the hill,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah.
They don't like coming in here.
they
So,
don't like
are we
their
done
driveway.
That was
beating up on the middle school?
Yep.
So we need to look at central
Yeah.
and.
So we're gonna have to go back to those 3 lines.
Yeah, and Central, the capital projects on line
Well-
407. If,
Well, let me ask one
Okay.
question though about the budget before you go. So, am I hearing from you that you want this whole 92,218 out of the middle school budget? If you're gonna pay for it, you're gonna pay for it with capital reserves?
That's not what I was.
Well, that's the critical question here
Okay.
for the budget. So, remember,
We would need to put more money into capital
yeah,
reserves.
but you have to anyway, remember,
Right.
you've got far too much
It does seem,
applied
it
surplus, so,
does seem like if we're going to do it,
yeah.
it should be a capital expenditure that.
Comes out of the capital reserves, okay. So yes, if we decide to do it,
Or even if you don't,
if we don't decide to do it, we will.
It
Yeah,
would
still
come out
don't-
of
It
the
should
budget.
come out of the operating
Out of the
budget.
operating.
we
It's
take
a
it out of the
capital matter.
operating. So,
Okay,
Both of them,
yeah, so we're taking 92,218 out of
yeah.
your expenditure budget right there.
and the 27th?
Yeah, because that,
That is what it is.
the total is
Yeah, that's-
92.
They would both come out of capital.
That was 1/4 of the 27 plus 1/2 of the 170,
Okay,
came to the 92.
okay. So it's the 92 for controls and boiler.
And, the- yes.
Okay.
But those are all matters of capital discussion at our next meeting.
Because
Okay.
you've got to have your budget ready to go for your next meeting, because it's almost time for town meeting. It's time to write up your reports for the book.
La 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 la.
Yeah.
So where's the central school?
407.
Nobody
Yeah.
reminded us
Well, I looked up the principals.
to write a report for the book, right? Have you written your
What
report?
was the line again?
407, page 28.
Safe from that.
It's nice seeing this waiting on paper, isn't it?
I just think we should make a hot cup of tea in my hands right now.
That would be, I have some ice water in my car. I mean, literally
I got
ice
this.
water. I left it there and it's
I
frozen.
know, I can't leave mine in the car
So,
anymore.
This
It's overnight.
55,000, would you
Mhm.
recommend
To the
keeping it here or
It's
moving it into
57
capital?
degrees in there.
Well, look at what it is.
You don't waste much time, do you?
Why?
I don't.
But he hasn't been working.
I know, but the bathroom, in and out quick as you can.
No, right, when I saw it was 57 degrees, it's like, whoa,
Yeah, you
I want
need
to sit down.
seat warmers.
Yeah, oh, nothing.
Stop them from loitering.
So that's just for after work.
No,
That's because they're prisoners, they're not students.
they're notified.
They're having it.
Okay, so the 92,000 comes out.
Yeah.
Right, now
what I'm-
now we're talking about the 55,000 on
Yep.
407.
Right.
That could come out too.
Yep.
You can do it all out of capital reserve
I
fund.
mean, we certainly have enough funds
You
that
do.
we could move into capital reserves.
Okay. Well, I think this one's an easy one,
Let my feather red.
in my opinion.
So
anyway.
that's gonna,
So we're suggesting we take this out of the operational budget and put it into the capital.
Okay.
So what's the improvements as, central?
Painting, 22,000, exterior painting, gutters.
Are there no
Oh,
gutters
gotcha.
currently?
I gotcha,
No
sorry.
gutters currently
no
in the
cut
front,
gutters.
yeah, so we get a lot of
Okay.
water flow
Oh,
out
yeah.
front onto
Yep.
the sidewalk.
Makes a mess
How
of
did
that
we
It's
sidewalk.
quite a mess, and it's eating up the sidewalk, literally drilling holes through the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Tech room plumbing, is that for the sink?
Yeah, that's the
Slop sinks
continuation of the
never
same.
mind.
It never goes away.
Outdoor lighting. Assume EVT is Efficiency Vermont.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, is that replacing all the fixtures around the outside?
LED lighting
Yep.
and adding some
Adding
more
some
in the
more
back
security in the
parking lot
back.
area, yep, for security reasons. Yep.
And then hopefully we'll, by the time we approve budgets and such, we will have the camera estimate.
Camera is not gonna be a lot of money.
No, no.
Where's the Saxons River?
Well, is there a safe room already, or this is a new?
We have a room that right now we need to call the unsafe room.
So
Right,
there-
would that be?
It's where Keith goes.
Yeah. It's in need of repair and,
Okay.
so.
So where's the Saxons River capital? What number? Can you say that?
That's on 543 and what's on page 37, the description's on the top of the next page.
62 window shades. I've been looking at window shades for my house.
Not cheap.
They're not cheap.
No.
It's like,
Nope, the installation is actually a small part of it.
I was stunned at how much window shades cost.
So how does the,
It's not bad.
how does the elevator stuff relate to, it's a separate line item. So are we just looking for the case of this, like should we
Yeah,
just,
we're only looking at the capital budgets for now, for this.
But why would
The
we-
elevator is not in here. That's a separate item you're voting on tonight.
Contracted services is.
Yeah, that's just
It
the
says
service contract, the
Yeah.
annual service
Oh, right,
contract.
Oh, okay.
so the 23, so 2355 from the central and the 92, we're still within the potential that we could put into the,
Right. 23 from Saxon's River, if you took it all out.
right. So what I'm saying is if we add the
55
three,
from,
we still have enough surplus that we could move into the capital.
right, I'm
Right.
gonna give you a figure. So right now. Check that again. No. Blame the maintenance guy.
There's no students here. Doesn't need to be that way.
Okay, so those three items are 170,218.
Okay, so right now we're okay in terms of.
Right, so sort of seeing how that works.
So can we just make that same suggestion to take those items, put them in the capital,
Right. So,
take it out of the operational?
Or
So
to
you-
boil it down, say, we're taking all capital expenses in this budget and
right, if you zeroed them all out, you'll reduce your expenditure budget by $170,218.
Almost. It's only like 20,000 what, short of what?
Yeah, so you're almost level funding your budget,
Right.
which is pretty darn nice, I
That's nice.
think. Right.
Yeah, that'll make Deb happy.
It'll make the governor happy. So- And Deb too.
I did.
So, right, that will almost level fund your expenditure budget. And over on, depends what you do over here to ed spending, so. if you took, of course, I have a powerful calculator right here by my side, but what am I doing?
You're not alone. I sit at work with Excel open and still.
I don't know why. It's
I use my cell phone
inaccurate way
for my
to show you.
calculator.
All right. So you, taking the 172.18 out of your applied surplus number, that still leaves you with $405,000, which is still more than you want to put in there.
Well, we should put in additional, I would
Right.
recommend putting in additional money
Right.
into the capital because you
Right.
just don't know what's going to happen.
The other thing you may want to do is have an article to apply some of the surplus to your FY20 budget,
Oh, right,
which is another good thing to do.
right.
Helps you in the future.
So what are we looking at for a number now for this budget? 170?
For which number?
The 170 for the,
172.18 is what you've taken out of your expenditure budget.
so should we make that,
So you certainly could put $200,000 more into your capital reserve
200,000 more or 200,000 total?
total. Sorry. yes.
Into,
Capital
We
reserve.
would take
Capital
200,000
reserve
out of our surplus
Right.
into the capital
Into the capital
fund,
reserve.
which already happens to have money that
So-
we may be about to spend.
right.
Right.
Some of it you are, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we put
Yeah.
200,000
Well, windows will
there,
come out of
Yep.
it. and-
150 towards 2020?
Yeah. So you've got,
So how much does that
So
leave?
give us 55.
350, that leaves roughly
200?
86?
Or 86?
I think it's 55. 250 minus 405.
240, something.
Well, that rough numbers sound like the direction.
It still leaves you with 245.
Oh,
245,000?
245.
Wait, are we talking about taking 200 and putting it into the capital reserve and then another 150 for 20?
For fiscal year 2020.
I thought we only had 405, 635. After we had the, because you start with 575, right? 575,
We have
8.
miscalculated.
Hmm?
405.
Minus the 172.18.
575, 853 minus the 172.18 gave you 405, 635, right?
Yeah.
Then we just talked about putting 150 into FY20,
Right? And then 200.
and so that came
So
to
that leaves us
245, 630.
50, 55 of applied surplus.
Oh, and then I had already subtracted out the 200.
Yeah, you've still probably got more than you want.
Then do we still have the 55 from Cherry?
Yes,
Yeah,
We still have to go to the vote, that's separate, that's something, yeah, different, right?
that's already sitting there.
So what, do you want to, well, so let's do it this way. So you've cut 170,218 out of your budget. Edie, are you with us on this?
Yep. What do you want?
I was trying to figure out what their ed spending would be if we,
I've got 8,631,962 with the 172.18 out.
out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Say that number again.
8,631,962.
So Shazam, so ed spending would be down a lot.
Yep. I haven't done anything though
Yeah,
as far
okay.
as the rest of the surplus.
So you're in good, yeah,
You're in really good shape compared to our other schools.
it's a tough problem to have, yeah.
I'll take this hard decisions.
But that's, however, Edie, that's with how much left in the surplus. That was with 570.
Right, so we need to reduce
Right,
that.
so there's, like, these numbers are hopping back and forth here. So if you could get the applied surplus down to 150,000,
Okay.
okay. What does ed spending turn into under this new scenario?
So that takes it down to 425. Whoops. Helps if I actually hit the minus, doesn't it?
Go start our cars for you.
Through.
I froze at VA on these Monday.
All right, so if you just leave 150,000, that increases your ed spending to $9,228,033, which is 13,000, not quite 13,000 more than it is this year.
What was it again?
9,228,033.
And that was with,
That's
that's taking the 170,000 out.
no, that's just
Of the
leaving your
out of the-
surplus at 150.
Okay, but I'm doing two things at once.
Okay.
So we're reducing the expenditure budget by 170,218.
Right. Oh,
Oh,
that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and are we exploring
good
the
team.
150 versus 200 changes? Because I think, were we talking about 200, applying 200 to the surplus?
I think they've got that in there.
You can. I was using
Well,
one.
I'm just wondering with him asking her these, to run these numbers, if we were looking at what the difference would be between 150 versus 200.
Well, that'll just be, you can do that. It'll just be $50,000
Yeah, that
different.
takes you down to 9,000 or 9,057,815. So the loss of the surplus increases it, but the bottom line decreases it.
90, so,
Yeah, so you're below what it is this year.
right. So even with just $150,000 applied surplus, you're gonna drop ed spending by $160,000, so roughly.
Yep.
And you could do more, like you say, Sam, you could put 200,000 against the surplus and you could apply, and you could have an article for another 200,000 in fiscal year '20. That'd tie up $400,000 of your surplus. You'd have 175 left. Oh, and look, you need 170 right there, yeah. That kind of works.
That's fine.
I like the.
I see lots of head nodding.
I think that it would make sense to do 200 and then the remaining 205, 635 towards the 20 the following year. Because I guess a basic question, maybe I should know the answer. What's in what we're applying to the surplus for this budget, if we say 200, that's all we have access to for that school year, right? We couldn't dip into, if something happened,
Right.
into the one that we assign to the following
Right.
year.
Because the language around the motion to establish the reserve fund will make it specific.
But we're not expecting anything major because we're kind of covering all of that now with this 170, correct?
No, I think it works to put 200 in. I think you could put 200 for this year coming, 200 for 2020, still have 175 to cover, to put into a reserve fund to cover more capital projects.
Well, isn't that what we're talking about, using that 170 for what we've just been talking about?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Just by way of comparison, since we're talking about 2019, what's the number? What's the amount that the governor is going to claw back from us?
$30,150.
This year.
So we're more than ready for his next grandiose idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. There were districts that were hit for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're a little more nervous about it, but. All right.
So are we looking to vote on authorizing the use of the capital reserve?
Only for the items that are on your agenda, which are the elevator and the sprinkler system. So, Sam, the way it will work with these reserve funds is I'll write up these articles for you, and they'll be the articles you approve to go to town meeting.
Got it, okay.
Okay, the 200, the 200, and the 175. Something.
200 and 200 and 170. Yeah, okay.
Actually, it's just
175.
200, it's just 200, because we don't have to have an article for the one we're doing this year. I'll give you something to remember me by.
So are we ready to be at the point where we're making a motion to authorize the expenditures of the capital funds for the sprinkler and the?
Well, that's the next item on the agenda.
I thought that's kind of what we've been discussing.
So, what we'll try to do, just to finish off on the budget discussion, I guess, is as soon as we have these numbers and we'll run a tax sheet. Using the royal we, it's Edie. We'll run a tax sheet draft and get that out to you, so you can sort of see
So
what the tax effect is. I mean,
we should be looking at final approval of the whole budget and all these pieces to it at our next meeting, which is early January.
Are we still going to have the joint meeting with the high school to do that?
joint meeting with the high school.
Well, in your early prediction for budget meetings, you had a January 8th budget approval meeting.
Oh, it's not a joint meeting. It's just at the high school because their meeting.
They're meeting that same day.
Yeah, so you're ahead of the high school.
Okay.
But isn't that Martin Luther King Day?
No, the
Well,
8th.
January
Oh,
15th,
okay, that's
well, on the
right. That's
agenda,
on
it
the
says the
agenda.
next meeting's the 15th, which is Martin Luther
Right.
King Day.
That's wrong. That
Okay.
has to be
I wonder.
changed.
I will be out of town the 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Yeah.
won't affect us.
Somewhere warm.
We're not meeting
Huh?
that anyway.
Somewhere warm.
Unfortunately, I'm
We're
going to
going to
Orlando.
meet somewhere very warm.
We're meeting
For business. I'm
There
not
we
going
go.
down.
We'll all join you down there and have our meeting there.
Nancy has gloves on, for goodness sake.
Flying down on Wednesday, doing business on Thursday, and coming home on.
Did you do something like that before where it was like?
Yeah, I'm taking a few
January
more
8th
hours
will
this
be the
time.
next meeting.
Last time it was like
30
really
more
fast.
hours.
So we're ready to, all right.
Okay, let's keep moving. We've got a lot
Please,
left.
put it
And we-
down to the next, yeah.
These guys need to go
Okay.
home.
So do we have further budget discussion, or are we pretty well burnt out?
We're
on
burnt
budget
out tonight.
discussion?
We're done.
I'm just getting done.
Where Chris shines.
Chris is like, wait,
Be able to
we're not making progress on this.
We're done. We're good. We're good on that.
Yeah, got gloves on.
Okay. I plugged in your numbers for your revenue with the $200,000 surplus and the $170,218. And your budget's up about 57,000.
The elevator.
And the spending's down
there was no motion
about
about the elevator.
2%.
There wasn't a motion?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're not even on
That's a
the
good thing.
agenda yet. We're not
Huh?
on that item.
Very good thing.
So I can fix this so it goes on to the Google Drive.
Yes, please.
Great.
So the overall budget's ended up a little bit?
Now, it's just barely,
Thank you, Rick.
yeah, 56,793.
We cut,
Cause you were up 227, you cut 172.18. Still left you with 56,792 up. 792.62 up.
How is it we were not, I
No,
thought we
it-
were 176.
the budget was up 176.
No, I'm only talking the general fund.
Oh, I
That's
see.
all we cut.
Okay.
I'll take it.
We'll see the revised one anyway.
So discuss authorized expenditure of capital reserve funds for elevator and sprinkler system repairs at Saxons River Elementary School. That's why it's so cold in here.
Did we kind of already discuss that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think you did.
I think we,
We discussed it, but we still need to,
Vote on it.
I know,
Yeah,
but
what
I
are
was,
the-
that
what are
was
the figures
addressing the
involved?
discussion.
Well, it's, the elevator was it was 12,983. The sprinkler was 7,525 for a total of 20,508. And I would say you might want to authorize up to,
5.
yeah, I mean, you could go up to 25. We're not going to spend that much. but
Well, they're,
Doesn't.
they should be authorized separately under 15 each, right? So, because they're
That's
not a
true,
bid
and they're
issue.
separate companies anyway, so,
So up to 14,999 for each one.
well,
We'll do it on- I mean, the sprinkler, we
you don't
could do
need
up
that
to like
much of a
10,
sprinkler.
I mean,
We shouldn't do it
12,500
evenly.
for each one.
but could we do like up to 10 for the sprinklers and then up to 20? Or I mean, up to 15
14,999.
Yeah,
for the elevators? I
Yes.
mean,
yes, that's a good number.
Yeah, I'll move that
10
we
for the
authorize
sprinklers and
the
14.99.
expenditure of no more than $14,999 from the capital reserve fund for repair of the Saxons River elevator.
Why the 99?
And did you include the
15,000,
10?
we have to get a bid.
And,
Well, somebody else can do the other one.
okay,
Well, why don't you just do it and keep the ball rolling?
All right, and I'll move that we authorize expenditure of no more than $10,000 for repair of the sprinkler system at the Saxons River Elementary School. That also to come from the capital reserve.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Appointment, long-term,
Well, no, we had the tuition item.
we already
We already
did
did
that.
those.
We're done.
No, we had the overage item, the
Oh,
adjustment
yeah,
to the agenda.
the adjustments, the allowable tuition
We have
overage.
9D. Sorry.
You're absolutely right.
bubble.
So, Edie has the
This is
page 20
different than
there.
what we, when we moved
The background on this is.
Oh, it's because I don't have the updated handwritten
yeah.
agenda.
Each year, we have to make a guess, educated guess about what the tuition will be. We charge the districts that. You collect significant tuitions at the middle school. Where was it? If the overcharge is over 3%, you are obligated to pay it back, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, it's not, but we recommend you do. Is that
So
right,
is this-
Edie?
Oh, no, it's over.
It's over.
The 3% is 416.31. And they're like 700 and something
Oh, so
over.
we only pay back the portion over 3%.
Correct.
So is this
And
already?
that's-
So
the number of
you're
students.
748, $749 over.
Yeah.
So the total is 14,528.57, and we add that to your FY19 budget.
So is that already in this budget?
No, I reviewed the law today, and we can wait until next year, but
So-
we're supposed to pay interest to the towns if we wait.
So it's not actually being built into next, it's coming out of this year's budget.
I would
Yes.
prefer that,
You would prefer what?
to take it out of this year's budget just because,
Done and over with and no interest.
well,
in it.
no, we don't want to pay them interest because we are allowed to do that. We're allowed to carry it and budget for it. But because we overcharge them, they can collect interest on it.
So they're in good enough shape, so the 14 will.
Yeah, I think they
Make
should
a
just
motion
pay
to
it
approve
this
this?
year, yeah.
I make a motion to approve to pay back the total amount of overcharge to be reimbursed, $14,528.57.
Have that I'm sorry, can I have that number again?
It's on the sheet
mind.
there.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on that? Can we vote on it? All those
So-
in favor?
So that's a motion to include it within this upcoming budget.
No, no, no.
it's
Oh,
gonna be
just
in
to
this
pay it
one.
now?
Motion to pay it
Oh,
right
so if we
now.
Have
Yeah.
money.
Okay, got it.
Just to get it over with so
Yep.
that we
Any
don't.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We'll make Edie happy.
Appoint a long-term sub for instrumental music, Matthew Hunter. Which school?
Middle school?
Middle school. So this is it. Mr. Rumwell is going to be out for a while. And this would be to start on, still January 31st.
Well, that continues to be a flexible date. He keeps getting different treatment schedules as to when things are going to be happening. Matt Hunter was in last week and is aware of all of this, and they're in close contact. We have added him in the meantime to our general substitute list, so he can, work as a day sub in the building and be ready once we
All
have
right, well,
final day.
that's, so, Mr. Hunter has a degree in music from Keene State College. He's worked as a long-term sub in Massachusetts in music program and as a music teacher in New Hampshire
That's great.
and at Kernatton Homes for a while. I guess he must have worked with Lisa.
So he has a Vermont license?
He
or-
does not. We're gonna have to get a provisional for him.
But he has music experience.
And a degree, so that's fine.
That's helpful going into band.
Yeah.
I make a motion to appoint long-term sub Matthew Hunter for the instrumental music.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on, accept resignation. Anita Carlson Allen, retired.
At the end of the year, not right now. She says, I'm ready to confirm my intention to retire at the end of the 2017-18 contract year. She currently holds a .4 FTE position at Central. I've immensely enjoyed my work supporting the physical and emotional health of the students and staff of Central Elementary School for nearly 15 years. My time at Central has been full of warm moments, connecting with and assisting so many young students and their families. Challenges are constant too, but the professional and deeply caring teamwork at CES makes all the difference. I am honored to have been able to work with such a dynamic educational team with whom I have shared so much and learned even more. With appreciation, Anita Carlson Allen. All you need to do is move to accept.
Make a motion to accept Anita Carlson Allen's retirement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. No further business. Director's comments?
Thank you, everybody, for your hard work and staying late tonight and hammering through this with us, and for shivering through this. We appreciate it. I know it's late. You all have to put a drive home, so thank you, and happy holidays.
Well said, thanks.
Evan?
I'm fine.
Sam?
Happy holidays, everybody. Try to stay warm. Thank you. Enjoy your break.
Yeah, enjoy your break and we'll see you next year.
Central.
Central, why is it warmer there?
It's warm and central.
Well, I thought we had to meet at the high school.
Yeah, the next meeting is the 8th at the high
High
school.
Right.
At what time?
5:30.
Yeah, I think we had it for 5:30, right?
And where? I don't think I've been to a
The
meeting.
high school?
Well, I know where the high school is.
You go in the library, so you go through the office area.
Okay, I know the layout of the lot.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to school there.
Okay, right.
The 8th?
But I just didn't know where the meetings were held.
Why the 8th at the high school? What am I?
Well,
What did I miss?
because the first is
At 5.
New Year's,
Okay.
and the 15th is Martin Luther King Day.
Okay.
It's on an odd day this year, and you have to approve your budget.
Okay.
And hopefully by then, everybody will have their materials for the annual report too, won't they? Your letters?
Really? I'm not ready to do that.
Yeah, well.
You mean for the principals, right?
at the middle school.
No, you're writing. Come on, Sam.
Write a letter for the annual report on behalf of the board. Okay, thanks.
Your budget revisions are on the drive.
Tomorrow.
Sooner the better. First week in
It's
January.
nice, I get, now that I've got this, I can get stuff done, I got the high school revenues done while we were waiting, you guys were.
So 5:30? Are we 5:30 yet?
Yep.
It's awesome, it really is helpful.
I don't have an office or a desk. Really, it's all.